Welcome to Living with Favor, folks. I'm Lisa Mosby, your host. Go ahead and grab that coffee or that tea and let's get talking. We are here discussing biodynamic craniosacral therapy. It's a lot to explore, and we're going to dive into the technical aspects of it, as well as the personal impact that this kind of therapy can have on a person's life. And I know firsthand because I've experienced it for the first time this week. But first, let me bring in our guest. Welcome, Dr. Nancy Anne Schrauth from Light Streams Holistic Healthcare. Nancy, welcome. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Did I pronounce all of that correctly, including your last name?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we'll tell you more about Dr. Nancy as we get into this. And of course, you can always go to our YouTube channel and get all the information and the links to find her. Can you share a little bit about your background? I just met you, so I don't know much about you, but I would love for our audience to kind of get a sense of your experience and why this is so important to you. If you'll share that. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, I guess ever since I was young, actually, I've always been interested in natural healing, holistic health for my own personal self. And then as I became older, I went into the healthcare field and I became a chiropractor. And I liked it because it was a natural therapy, but it still was not sort of getting to my search for the source of health. And I came across craniosacral therapy and the biodynamic approach. And really, it talks about accessing our innate intelligence, that intelligence within our body that actually knows how to heal. And so it really spoke to me for that source of health. And so I went on to study it and I found that, the results are amazing and it's very, satisfying. It's really, satisfying for me to be able to know that I'm really working with that source.
Yeah.
So
And as I mentioned in the intro, I had not done this before. And so I experienced this week, just a few days ago. And I'd been having it felt like somebody was stabbing me in the back with a knife, like in my shoulder blade and coming through. And then my neck was really tense. And I thought, normally I go to acupuncture, I have a chiropractor, but those are back in Florida. I happen to be in Wisconsin right now. And so I'm in the Midwest and I don't have my people. So the people that I know always know somebody. So we were connected and I thought, well, I'm going to give this a shot and have this experience. I knew nothing about what it was. Honestly, I thought she was going to put her hands on my head and do something with my head. But that is not what it is. And I'm going to actually let you explain this, but I'll just speak to my experience. What I felt was changes in body temperature and releasing of, a faster heartbeat where I got to slow down and settle in. And just, I felt like I was kind of in a cocoon laying on the massage bed, and you're fully dressed during this process, but she's moving her hands from head to toe, front of the body to the back of the body. And I don't know exactly what's happening, but I was noticing as things were starting to release, and I was noticing how my breathing was changing, my stress level was changing, and there was this like joyful calm and peace that came over my whole body. And eventually that whatever was going on in that released, and I still don't have it. And I believe it's been 3 days now. So in one session, we were able to shift something and move something out. Now there's probably another layer to the onion. We're always peeling it, but in the moment, I've been extremely productive the last 2 days and pain-free in that area. So I'm pleased with the outcome. Now, can you tell me what we did?
yeah, so this is a hands-on body therapy. So as you say, I move my hands and I usually stay in one place for quite a while. And with this very gentle touch, my hands are sort of communicating, but listening to what's happening in your body. So your life force energy interacts with your physiology, and that's what I'm noticing. And so in that noticing, something happens. And in a way, I will say it is a bit of a mystery, but there is something that happens and your body is sort of recognizing that life force. And so it tends to wind down your nervous system. So that jittery, shaky, that, you know, how it feels when you're under stress or you even drink
Mhm.
too much coffee, your body kind of starts to race. So it'll wind that down into a little bit more of a state of relaxation where we feel things start to ease. The temperature changes are because when your muscles and fascia relax, blood flow increases and blood flow moves into those areas, bringing the nutrients that start to restore health. The nutrients that move in will start to relax muscles and fascia, you know, bring in the needed nutrients to relax the muscles and tension. And so it's really a general whole body experience because everything in our body is integrated, right? So I'll work up. There's, you know, maybe areas that are really more organizing around your nervous system, or if there was like a situation in your digestive system. So I can tune into those areas in particular. But of course, the life force is working everywhere, and it should. So that's what we are trying to restore, is that your connection with the life force to your physiology.
It's not like chiropractic where you're actually adjusting someone or using devices. You're simply holding your hands in place. There's no massage or anything other than, I mean, you move from one location to another location, but there's not, it's, you're just holding the hands in place. So how does that work? Is it, we call it energy medicine? Is it your energy working with my energy? Can you give us a sense of what the process is or what your thought process is as you're helping to improve someone's life force?
Sure. The key really is my state of presence that I'm holding. So this is what, you know, the training is all about, is learning that state of presence. So we learn that the body really needs to come into relationship with life force in a point of stillness. So I'm holding that sense of stillness within myself, and I'm also orienting to like a sense of health and vitality. So your body actually resonates with my energy field. It's like, you know, you stand too close to somebody and you can feel whether, you know, they're in a bad mood or a good mood. You want to be around people that are in a good mood because it's uplifting our energy. And it's the same thing. So your body resonates with that stillness, and so can drop into that and recognize where that life force is coming from. So, you know, it is, as I said, a little bit of a mystery, but that's basically what's happening.
Yeah. So chiropractic care, it's much more hands-on and we call it I call it adjustments. I don't know what the term is that a chiropractic person would use, but here we're doing a little bit different. Is this energy work? And then what was there something specific that caused you to specialize over here? Something that you didn't notice you were able to do with chiropractic that you can now actually do with this? Like help us to compare and understand, because I think many of our viewers probably have gone to chiropractic, have a clear understanding of that. And how is this complementary, or is it something you do in place of? Like give us some framework around how we would evolve using this technique.
Yeah, so chiropractic is, you know, it is actually finding something that's stuck, say in your spine, for example, or any joint, and that interferes with the movement of fluids, your nerve supply, and basically the life force energy. So we adjust it. We'll move it. We'll get some motion going to restore the blood flow, nerve flow, etc. Well, what we find is that, you know, even our culture is whole built is all around, you know, we want to do something to help it. So I'm going to find it and impose my belief as to what should happen. In biodynamic work, we really acknowledge that the body knows best what needs to happen. So I may adjust your spine, but that place where it's stuck or fixed may be a compensation for something else. And I can't really know the proper sequence and timing. So with the biodynamic approach, we really orient to the movement of your life force and how it's organizing health and letting it do the sequence and timing of what needs to happen. So really we notice there's this process where suddenly we'll feel all this energy galvanizing. And it is energy. It's a movement of fluids and it's driven, it's organized by an energy. So we feel this galvanizing around maybe an area that we're noticing isn't moving very well. And so I just let that be. And I come back into my own self, finding stillness, finding health, which then supports your body's process of finding that itself. And then something happens, like there'll be a kind of a coming into balance of that force holding and the life force, and then there's a dissipation. So that area that was tense or stuck can dissipate and resolve. And then we'll feel that warmth flow in with new blood flow. We'll feel an easing or a spreading in the tissues. And so that is a process. And if there's enough of that life force available, it'll maybe go on to something else. So you may have noticed that initially my hands were on your feet and I was just tuning into your whole body. I felt then, you came in after rushing in and everything. So it took a while for your body to really land on the table. And at that moment, I'm like, okay, your system is sort of ready, engaged for action. So then I moved up to around your sacrum and your lower back, where there are specific, nerve centers that orient to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxation mode. And that's what I'm supporting. So I'm holding there for a while until a little bit more eases, a little bit more of the
Mhm.
potency, or the potency is the word we use for life force energy. So the potency builds up. Then I moved up to around your digestion and the upper back, which is where all this was happening. And by then, the potency is a bit more organized and moving into that area. So it's not only happening where my hands are, but because that was like a major thing in your body, it was calling sort of the potency to that area.
The word that comes to mind as you're describing that is flow. It's just like we're getting things flowing. It's like the river had some logs in it, and this felt like a more than a log. Like it was a complete block. Like, oh, I felt what's wrong with my arm? It hurts. I can't move it. And then once that opened up, it was just like, and it happens so fast, and it's held. It's not like it came back an hour or two later. Sometimes after massage, things don't stay gone, they come back, or even after a chiropractic adjustment you have to go 2 or 3 times, or maybe more for some folks. But I was quite surprised at the level of pain that I was having and how I could possibly walk out of there without that pain in my shoulder. Now I know that's not going to happen for everybody. That it's we're not claiming to be a miracle cure, but by any means. But I was so fascinated with that experience. But I kind of want to address some misconceptions, because when I came in, I really thought it was just about the head. And then you went, no, cranial sacral, like, down there near your tailbone area. So we work from there to there, but you started at my feet even to balance out my system. So we're incorporating all these different pieces. So I know I walked in with a handful of misconceptions. Can you share with the viewers, like, what are some of the misconceptions that they may be holding, and help us to just understand them a little bit better?
Right. Well, maybe it would be good just to start with the origins. And, it started
Beautiful.
out of osteopathic work, and they discovered or felt this rhythm. It's not that they discovered it. And honestly, the ancient healers did this anyway. It was always a known thing, this hands-on healing.
Yeah.
And the osteopaths sort of like felt this rhythm and kind of put it into a package of a healthcare system on its own and called it craniosacral therapy. And what
Mhm.
they felt was this rhythm, or this movement within the body. It fluctuates like a breath. So there's an expansion and then a receding. And this is happening in all of our cells. And what they discovered was this movement, this breathing of our physiology is driven, or there's a drive to it that is felt in the fluids, and specifically cerebral spinal fluid, which surrounds the brain and spinal cord within a membrane. And that membrane is attached at the sacrum and the cranium. So they felt this rhythm of fluid moving up to the head and then down to the tailbone, up to the head and down to the tailbone. So it fluctuates in maybe 20 seconds per cycle. So, 10 seconds up, 10 seconds down. And so that's why they called it craniosacral therapy, because it was this fluid fluctuation within that membrane. But we have come to realize that now it's happening in all of our cells. Every cell participates. So we can feel that rhythm anywhere in your body. And it should be flowing. And that rhythm or that movement is what is distributing that intelligence. So the intelligence is infused in the fluids at conception, when our body is just conceived. And it is the intelligence that creates our body, that we're formed as a human being, and then is going on to organize health. So it is that intelligence that it knows how to heal if you cut yourself. You don't have to tell your body what to do. It will automatically do it. And that's being organized by our life force energy. And
Quite fascinating.
so some of the misconceptions, and there are a lot, you're right, because if you look up craniosacral therapy on the internet, there is so much, controversy and not a lot of it good. Okay. If you go to the biodynamic, there is a little bit more because it'll go to the websites, but there, they talk about moving the cranial plates. Well, number one, we call them cranial bones, and they're held together by sutures. And they actually, they don't like move like, a bone like that. It's just a very subtle expansion. So there is a widening across the cranium that we can feel with our hands. And honestly, when I'm feeling it in my hands, I think I can look down and see it, but it's amplified by our felt sense. It's not really moving very much. It's not something we could see, although sometimes you can see little micro movements. And sometimes as the body's adjusting, it will kind of, roll back and forth as muscles are releasing and things like that. And there is that spreading and the dropping of the shoulders. But I think the misconceptions that we actually move the cranial plates, or that it's right, like you say, head and tail. In the biodynamic approach, we do not do any kind of manipulation. There are other approaches, more mechanical, and this would be your classical craniosacral therapy that there is very popular as well. And they might do a little bit more adjusting, and it isn't forceful, it's very gentle, but they're going to create an intention like, okay, my hands are on the sphenoid bones, and maybe the sphenoid bone isn't moving. So they're going to think, okay, I've got to move this in the right way. With a biodynamic approach, we don't do that at all. We may feel that and we'll feel, okay, that's very interesting. What else is going on here? What's organizing that? And somehow in that, the body can galvanize a healing response and, go to the right sequence and timing. So if I drag somebody's sphenoid bone down to get it moving again, that person may have to then adapt to my intervention there, right? Even though it is gentle, like a chiropractic adjustment, I'm fixing, I'm fixing, this stuckness, and the body then has to adapt to that. And sometimes it works fine. Sometimes it's enough, like, the body has to reorganize itself, and maybe it has enough resources to actually clear that. But sometimes it doesn't. And again, you have to go back a number of times, or you may get a pain somewhere else, or you may have a headache for a few days. So things like that. So there's no manipulation. There's no idea that this should move this way. We really like, okay, that's very interesting. What else is going on? And just really let the body figure it out.
comes back to that flow state where, the words that really resonate with me are flow and then life force. Like
Yeah.
we're getting your life force flowing, and the body's innate ability to heal, that life force will move it back into alignment and bring it back to status quo, and calm it and rest it, and create that peace within the system, which can cause reduction of inflammation. In my case, whatever it was, I mean, there was some sort of inflammation because I was having pain, and I don't even know what it was causing it. I don't know if it was emotional or physical. I just knew I couldn't function, and it was affecting my focus because I had a pain level. And you were able to restore that flow and allow the body to release that. And that's what's so magical for me. What was so magical about it? Are there are there common issues or conditions that this kind of therapy can help with? Or do you use it for everybody? Like, can you dive into a little bit? Like, who do you see the most profound effects on? Maybe that would be the question.
Right. I, kind of like chuckle at this because yes, everyone can benefit. It's really optimizing the conditions for health. So who couldn't benefit from
Yeah.
that, right? But saying that, yeah, like musculoskeletal pain, sometimes that's more of a superficial layer that can clear out, fairly, not quickly, sometimes can, but can be more of a dramatic. But I would say deeper, like emotional issues, this work is really also about coming into relationship with your emotions, because the emotions start out as a physical sensations. And if we can start to kind of come into relationship with that, sometimes we can, uncouple or detangle from the physical symptoms and realize that that isn't all there is. So emotional stress, trauma, these things have sort of become, exponentially huge recently since the pandemic, I guess. So a lot of people come in with stress and anxiety levels that really do respond well to this therapy. Um, babies respond well. Babies, they really haven't had much time on this earth in relationship to gravity, so they don't have a lot of muscle tension. And the way we work with babies is we really support the caregiver and that baby to have that attunement and the bonding, because that's really where the healing happens in relationships. So we always work with the caregivers and the babies sort of in a dyad or triad, whichever caregivers come in. And it's again, just a very gentle. So there may have been some tension or stress or emotional holding from the birth, which really clears out very quickly with babies. People with like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, these things that the medical side doesn't have a lot of answers for. So a lot of it is about, stress and getting the body physiology communicating with the life force. And I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not. It takes time. And as you say, it doesn't antidote a bad lifestyle. So, this in combination with other things, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, we can get that physiology back in touch with the life force. We call it the breath of life, the energy that's breathing life into our physiology. The same life force really that is supporting the universe and our planet and plants and everything. So that communication really gets the body in that self-healing mode again.
How does it complement other therapies? I'm thinking, because I have done acupuncture, I've done massage, I've done chiropractic. I do a lot of body work. That is my holistic medicine versus, taking a pill for pain or anything. I try to get my body back into status quo where it can do what it needs to do because it knows it has that intelligence that none of us really understand, but we know it when we feel it. So I've done a lot of those types of therapies. Is there a way to use this if folks are challenged with some of those diseases that you mentioned? How do they use this as a complementary therapy with what they're currently doing? And perhaps maybe they'll transition and this will be the only thing they need. But is there a way to bring this together? Do we do this first? Do we do it after our other therapies? Can you speak a little bit to how we use complementary therapies get back to that flow, get back to that that's life force state, improve our life force state and relieve pain.
Yeah, I think it works great with other therapies, and not only just complementary therapies, but even orthodox treatments. For example, cancer, chemotherapy. And I've worked with people that have been undergoing chemotherapy, and I think it helps, our body accept the chemotherapy drugs to work the best it can, and then help our body detox and recover from it. So typically I'll see somebody maybe, several days after their chemotherapy. And, it helps the liver kind of detox a bit. It helps their body recover from that. So any other, orthodox therapies like, a surgery or, a heart condition that they've had to have some intervention. It really just helps get things back on track. And everybody, I think, experiences this. If you've had some kind of a surgery, you go to the hospital and it's like a mechanical thing, right? Like taking your car in. But then you have to go home to heal. And this can actually be part of that healing. And in
Okay.
terms of the other complementary therapies, like acupuncture, for example, it's similar to what I said with the chiropractic. We're going to move something and then really let the body sort of figure it out. Acupuncture, the same. They're going to try to remove the block from the energy flow. And that can be very helpful. And I think this therapy can help your body
Yeah.
integrate whatever other therapies you're doing and help your body accept it and then move on. And so, yeah, I think it can be really an adjunct to just about everything because it is so gentle and no force. I'm not going to interfere with what another therapist might, have in mind or be doing. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it is that everybody has access to it. It would be available. It doesn't matter what's going on. If something isn't working, this would be something that's complementary to give those other things time to work, but this may help to improve the life flow and get things moving along so that you can heal from it. If somebody is considering this for the first time, do you have any advice for those folks? Like, who to call? There's a difference between biodynamic, you had mentioned that earlier, and other types of craniosacral work. So, can you, a first timer, how would you introduce this to a first timer and encourage them to seek some advice?
Yeah, I think the first time people should come with an open mind. I do get, referrals from different therapists that maybe already know about it, so they're a little bit prepared. But because it is very subtle and it may take some time to really feel what's happening and be, open-minded to it. I think people who like more of a subtle process healing, not just a quick, fix something and then, let it kind of settle through. So this is a process of healing to really get to the source of what's going on in the body. It's like, a lot of other therapies are sort of the Band-Aid kind of thing, right? So we work on the symptoms, but we're not getting to the root cause, where this really does get down to that root cause. And not that I determine what that is, I don't really even know, but the body really tends to know what it needs to do when. So to just trust. And I think it offers people a hope that there's always hope. One of the things that we really are steeped in is the fact that this potency is available from the time we are conceived till our last breath. Our body has the potential for healing. And that doesn't mean that we're going to overcome all of our physical symptoms because they've taken a long time. But a healing can happen. We can come into more of a relationship with our physical conditions, and the conditions for health and healing, even as if it's accepting where we are at this point. So, yeah, for first timers, just to be open-minded.
Beautiful. And we're coming to the end of our time. I do have one final question before we figure out how people can get in touch with you. And that is, as you're looking to the future, how do you see biodynamic cranial sacral therapy evolving or growing within the holistic health practice?
I think that a lot of people now are becoming more interested in maybe subtle types of healing, more of this energy work, more of really working with the body, so to
Yeah.
enhance the body's wellness. Come on, let's talk about wellness. We've got all these, conditions now, like all these viruses that we're faced with, and nobody's talking about how we're improving our own health. And this is a big way to do that. So I think, people are becoming a little bit more disenfranchised. And I teach this course as well. I teach this practitioner training, and I'm seeing that a lot of our courses now are getting much more interest, people coming into it. People are seeking out more holistic type, more subtle types of healing, more that work on more of the subtle layers of our being, not just our physical mechanical issues. So I think it's really a cutting edge, and it's going to really explode.
Definitely seeing a trend in that direction. You mentioned the course. I'm going to be out of town. I'm heading back to Florida because I don't want to see that snow. I would be in that room if I could, folks. Tell us, you do you have a course coming up here in November?
We have a course coming up. It will start in November. It's actually about
Mhm.
18 months. And it's
Okay.
organized in modules. So the modules are 5 days, and we have 6 to 8 weeks in between. And this is for the students to practice. So it's a very practical, hands-on type of training. And the modules are very intense. So yes, the first module is starting November 13th through the 17th. And
Beautiful.
the next one will be in January. So you won't want to come back for that one either.
So as you, yeah, just whenever folks are listening or hearing this, just know that it's ongoing, and you can get in touch with Dr. Nancy Ann through the description in the YouTube channel, or you can absolutely reach out to me and I will connect you with her as well. So if you're wanting more information, her links will be available on the YouTube channel. So you can click on that and get the up-to-date information, no matter what time, what year, what month it is that you're looking into this. If it's something that you're interested in, at least try to connect with her and have a conversation, even if there isn't a course going on at this time. I would love for folks to be able to experience this, because it really is. It expanded my mind. It was something new, and I've been in this field for couple dozen years, but had not experienced this. So we're always learning new things. There's always something that's available to us. We don't have to take a pill for pain. We don't have to live in pain. We don't have to be stopped. We can continue to search and continue to find resources. And so thank you so much for bringing this new resource, new to me, resource to my audience, and hopefully will affect somebody's life. We'll change somebody's life for the better because of this conversation. Any final thoughts before I let you go?
I will say that the school that I work for is called Body Intelligence Training, and we have courses all over the world, actually. And so if you're not in the Twin Cities, there's maybe a course near you. So you can look that up on the website, bodyintelligence.com. So that
Bodyintelligence.com. Beautiful. I did not know that. I didn't ask you that the other day. All right, Dr. Nancy Ann, thank you so much for being with me today. It's been my pleasure, and I'm glad we could share this with the audience. Keep going, keep making a difference, keep having an impact.
Thank you
And
so
if
much.
my pleasure. Yeah. Folks, if you need help with your business, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to do better on social media, I would love to have a chat with you. Maybe you'll be a guest on the show. Educate me on something new. I'm always open and willing to learn. You can go to my website at lisamosby.com, lisamosbey.com, and you'll notice that Dr. Nancy Ann's website is Light Streams with an S Chiropractic, lightstreamschiropractic.com, and you can find her there. So we'll see y'all next week. Come on back. Thanks for being here.